Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Joining us on the phones right now as impeachment hearings continue in Washington, D.C., the Director of Communications for the Trump 2020 re-elect campaign, Tim Murtaugh, joining us here on the Chad Hasty Show. Tim, good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing great. I appreciate you joining us. We've got the before I ask you about tonight's Democrat debate and what you think the Democrats are going to say tonight, I want to take a look at what's going on with these impeachment hearings. Tim, last week the big bomb was going to drop on Wednesday, then it was going to be on Friday, then it was going to be yesterday, and now it's going to be today, right?
Right. Yeah, we keep waiting, and this is, it's kind of an overused phrase, but the Democrats keep moving the goalpost, and they keep, delaying the big surprise. There's always going to be the big moment, right? And, of course, we all remember when the first big moment was going to be when the Mueller report was released way back when. We're all old enough to remember when they were going to impeach the president for being a Russian agent, right? And so, and that all fell apart as we knew that it would, and so now they're on to this Ukraine nonsense, and what this really is a Democrat impeachment in search of a reason, and it's strictly a Democrat operation. Nancy Pelosi said 1 million times that she wouldn't move forward unless it were a bipartisan endeavor, and of course it's not. This might as well be branded the DNC impeachment because that's all that it is, and you can't have one political party trying to drum the president out of office. That's not how it's meant to be. And the country won't stand for it. You cannot have one political party decide that they don't like a particular president and just get rid of him. Yeah. And that's exactly what the Democrats are doing.
I'm sure you've been watching some of Ambassador Sondland today. Anything that, he's saying that there was a quid pro quo. What we've talked about here on this show before is that don't quid pro quos happen all the time in government? And with foreign aid, I remember the president, when you had the migrant caravans coming up from Central America, and he said, hey, Central America, if you want foreign aid, you need to stop these caravans from coming into the United States. And guess what? The caravans kind of dwindled after that, and all of a sudden, you had money that was given to Central America. It seems to me there's always quid pro quos, isn't there?
Well, I think probably in many cases that is true. But, let's remember that Ambassador Sondland previously testified the first time he went before this committee behind closed doors. He said that the president was very specific and repeatedly said very clearly, I am not asking for a quid pro quo. I don't want a quid pro quo. And in fact, what we see is that Zelensky, the president, got the phone call from the president. The aid to Ukraine, the lethal aid to Ukraine, did in fact flow, and Ukraine didn't actually have to do anything to make those things happen. So there was no demand, and there was no action on the part of the Ukrainians, and so there was no quid pro quo. And I don't know exactly how the ambassador is trying to make that connection, but the Ukrainians actually didn't do anything to cause those things to happen. So there was no completion of a quid pro quo. It actually didn't even happen. So I want to make clear again that he did previously testify that the president was expressly stating, I'm not asking for anything. I don't want a quid pro quo. The president was very clear in that. So, that's what we're seeing again is the Democrats fishing around, and they're made the big promise yesterday. Vindman was going to be their big guy, and that fell apart. And the whole thing is just sad, if you ask me. Well, they don't like the results of the 2016 election, and they've never gotten over it.
Right, and I think this is I think most people, if they watch this and they watch it with an open mind, I think they'll see that this is all politically motivated. You've got Democrats who are on the record of saying if we don't impeach the president, then we're afraid he's going to win in 2020. This, to me, is the Democrats' best shot at stopping the president.
Certainly, and that's certainly what they think. And look, you can tell by the fact that Democrats keep entering the race for president. You got, Deval Patrick and Mike Bloomberg just entered, that they don't think that they got anybody in there right now who's going to be able to compete with Donald Trump. And we certainly believe that to be true. And so they know that their best shot to defeat him is to get rid of him before Election Day. And I'd like to know, they haven't yet done this, but I'd like to know, how is it that Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and the Democrats, how are they going to make the argument to the American people that they are the ones who get to decide who's president of the United States? We're now less than a year away from the election, and they're going to say, no, voters, we're going to take it out of your hands, and we're going to remove from you the ability for you to vote to reelect the president of the United States. Now, we know better than you do, and we're going to take the decision out of your hands, voters. How are you going to make that argument to the American people? I just don't think you can.
Yeah, visiting with Tim Murtaugh here on the Chad Hasty Show, Communications Director for the Trump 2020 reelect campaign. We have yet another Democrat debate tonight. This time, I believe, in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be on MSNBC for those who care to watch. Tim, what do you think people can expect to hear tonight out of the Democrats?
Oh, just a whole bunch of blah, 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 and the same stuff as before. They all have these big government socialist ideas and ways that they're going to take away people's freedoms and their abilities to make decisions for themselves and their families. They're going to be talking about endlessly one version or another of a government takeover of the healthcare system, which will end private employer-provided health insurance that so many millions of Americans enjoy. They're going to be talking about opening up our borders and not enforcing any of our immigration laws. They're going to talk about embracing the Green New Deal, which means an absolute assault on the energy industry, and that means the oil and gas industry. I hope the people in Texas are listening to that. 10 million jobs in this country are supported by the oil, natural gas, and coal industries, and the Democrats want to just eliminate all of that. And in order to do all of these crazy things, they're going to have to raise taxes on everybody, every American, to pay for it. And so that's what we're going to hear in the varying degrees as they dance around it and try to obscure from Americans what it is that, in fact, that they're trying to propose. But that's what it truly is.
Tim, the Democrats are now trying, well, at least those in the media are trying to portray Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, as a moderate. He surged ahead in Iowa. He surged ahead in New Hampshire. I don't think this guy's a moderate. What do you think?
No, because you roll your sleeves up and you take your jacket off and you walk around on stage and you put some fancy words in front of it, it doesn't make you any less of a socialist. He agrees with everybody else up there on stage. I don't see, it's all varying degrees of socialism. Just because you are less of a socialist than the guy standing next to you doesn't make you a moderate. Not by our scale. Here's the thing: we've been telling anybody who will listen, including the media, that there is no moderate lane in the Democrat primary. The fringe of the Democrat Party, who is the one controlling the flow of information and the flow of ideas here in their primary process, they will not stand for any moderation of ideas. It's the reason why they all have to embrace the Green New Deal, for goodness sake. If you embrace the Green New Deal, you are not a moderate. I hate to break it to the media. There's no moderate lane. Okay, that's why Joe Biden has had to turn his back on various long-held positions that he's had in his 4 decades in public office. He had to, for example, he had to shed his opposition to taxpayer funding of abortion. For 40 years, Joe Biden said it was a bad idea for the taxpayers of the United States to pay for abortions. All of a sudden, he's running for president in 2019. You know what? Taxpayer funding of abortions is A-OK with me. Forget what I said for 40 years. So, it's ridiculous. There's no moderate lane. Not one of these candidates is a moderate. And for the media to say, oh, this guy's the moderate, just proves that they're just being cheerleaders. That's all.
And the president, of course, he's going to be here in Texas today. He's traveling down to Austin and taking a tour of the Apple facility down there. And it shows again, the president caring about jobs and also caring about the state of Texas.
You better believe it. Yeah, jobs and opportunities in the Trump administration. The economy is strong and continues to grow. Unemployment is low. The great state of Texas always leading the way with a vibrant economy. Unemployment low there as well, and a great technology sector, as the president's going to highlight today. And we do love Texas. The president has been there frequently and will continue to go. We have great support there, great fundraising support in the state of Texas. And we had a rally in Dallas just a few weeks back. I'm lucky enough to go to all the rallies, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
And Texas is going to be there. It was very important for the president's election in 2016. Will be important again in 2020. And we absolutely are. We don't take anything for granted, but we feel pretty good about winning Texas again. And the Democrats like to make noise about, they think we can turn Texas purple because of Beto, right? And President Trump was not on the ballot in 2018, and he is going to be on the ballot next year, and that changes everything. And President Trump's going to win Texas. Don't you worry about that.
Director of Communications for the Trump 2020 reelect campaign, Tim Murtaugh. Pleasure visiting with you, and I'm sure we'll visit again as the campaign season continues.
You bet. Anytime. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. That's Tim Murtaugh here on the Chad Hasty Show. News Talk, KFYO.